Wrong pair of glasses. Amos, Sunday soon. 46, I think. Today I'm just going to replay a video that I've been watching, that I'd watched earlier today. Billy Tikahira from New Zealand, one of our friends of Vin Eastwood, that you may know if you've watched my channel. And, well, I'd like to show a show that he's just showed, shall we say. Right, it's a video about the horrors that are happening in Gaza right now. And yeah, well, instead of me waffling on, let's get into it. Goes for a while. I'll keep you informed.
Kia ora, shalom, assalam and greetings to you wherever you may be from New Zealand Aotearoa. My name is Billy Tikahika and I am an Indigenous Māori New Zealander. I'm also a husband, a father and a grandfather, and I love my family. I'm an independent Seventh-day Adventist pastor as well as a human rights activist here in New Zealand. But I'm also a former member of the New Zealand military. And when I was in the New Zealand Army, I was taught the rules of engagement, and I was taught about my responsibility and the way that I treated civilians and the way that I treated prisoners of war. Now, I believe in the principles as taught by Jesus that are found in the Bible, that every human being has the right to live in freedom, without harm, without overreach by governments and societies, and every human has been born with the right to be free, as gifted to us by our Heavenly Father. But I also believe in the commandments of God. I believe that as a Christian, I'm obligated to keep the commandments of God, as Jesus says in the Gospel of John, chapter 14, verse 15, if you love me, keep my commandments. Some of these commandments also include, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness, and thou shalt not covet. And I believe that these principles are the very, very principles that every human is judged by. As a human rights activist here in New Zealand, in 2020 and 2021, I found myself for the first time in my life becoming an activist, in particular a human rights activist. And I fought against the New Zealand government's, or in particular, the New Zealand Labour government's COVID-19 tyranny. And for that, I felt the wrath of a very angry government against me. They pursued me, I faced prison and harm, and so I know what it's like to be considered an enemy of the state, even when in fact, I care very deeply for my community, I care very much about the commandments of God, and of course, I believe in rights and freedoms for all. As a biblical Christian, I was horrified and distressed by the terrorist operations conducted by Hamas against Israeli civilians on October 7, 2023. I was with the world as the world condemned these operations. My heart was horrified and heartbroken for those victims that were killed and taken hostage by Hamas. I still, to this day, feel huge compassion for the victims and their families, and I still believe that those families need to have their loved ones returned to them, and it needs to happen now. But I've also been very, very distressed by the military operations conducted against Hamas by the IDF, Israeli Defense Force, since October the 8th, 2023, that have caused the civilian population of Gaza so much pain, suffering, tragedy, and horror like we've not seen in recent times. As a former military man, I needed to investigate and research this matter myself to find out what has been really going on, to try and understand what a civilian population trapped in a tiny strip of land called Gaza is going through at the hands of a vengeful and genocidal military. What I've discovered and what I've found breaks my heart as a human, as a Christian, as a former soldier, and it's like nothing I could have expected. Even after COVID, I guess I shouldn't be that surprised, but this is of a completely different level. I'm going to present to you in this humble docu-compilation evidence that the Israeli government have used the tragedy of October the 7th to implement a genocidal ethnic cleansing program against the civilians of Gaza, and that a decades-old plan is being implemented right now so that Israelis can resettle Gaza. You will hear evidence in the words of Israeli leaders such as Benjamin Netanyahu of their intent to ethnically cleanse the Gaza Strip, and that they consider the world has no role in trying to prevent them. One tool we will use to assess the Israeli Defense Forces behavior will be the Geneva Conventions of 1949. And we will assess whether the Israeli Defense Force have committed some of the most heinous crimes in modern and recent history. We will be looking at the Geneva Convention's rules for how militaries in conflict should treat civilians, civilian property, medical staff, safe zones, and measure how the Israeli Defense Force have behaved against these principles. I want to be perfectly clear. I am not an anti-Semite, nor am I a pro-Palestinian activist. And my assessment in this video presentation is based on purely observational and documented facts. I'm not persuaded by callous propaganda from either side. And this video information is presented without bias, although I'm deeply affected by what I have seen and researched, and I want the genocide to stop. I also want to be clear about this. There are literally hundreds of thousands of Jewish people all around the world that are protesting against what Netanyahu and the IDF are doing in Gaza. They are demanding the genocide to stop. And in this presentation, you will see clear evidence of that. Also, some of my best sources for information for this short presentation have come from Jewish sources. To confirm this, I've included an important segment that shows Jewish people fighting for Palestinian survival. These brave Jewish people have shown integrity, compassion, love for their Palestinian brothers and sisters. This is not about being pro-Israel or pro-Palestinian. This is simply about being pro-human life. I would like to warn you that the images and the footage you will see in this presentation are graphic and are very distressing. Please ensure that the little ones around you don't get exposed to this. There are enough little children being exposed to war. I hereby present to you this short docu-compilation, Gaza, the horrible truth about ethnic cleansing.
הלילה ברצועת עזה העברנו הילוך. צה"ל תופס שטחים, מכה במחבלים, הורס את התשתיות, ואנחנו עושים דבר נוסף. אנחנו תופסים את ציר מורג. זאת תהיה הפילדלפי השנייה, ציר פילדלפי הנוסף, משום שאנחנו עכשיו מבטרים את הרצועה, ואנחנו מוסיפים את הלחץ צעד אחר צעד, כדי שיתנו לנו את חטופינו. וככל שלא ייתנו, כך הלחץ יגבר עד שייתנו.
נקודה אחת בהגנה, אפרופו עזה, אפרופו כשישבנו בלבנון ועוד נשב בכל מיני מקומות אחרים. בגלל הרצון שלנו לשמור על שיווי משקל כמדינה מפותחת. מרכיב הענישה כאסטרטגיה צריך ללכת ולתפוס את המרכיב העיקרי. בענישה יש המון דרגות חופש. אתה קובע אם אתה נותן סתירה אחת או שתיים, או אם אתה נותן מקדימה או מאחורה, האם אתה פוגע ברכוש או פוגע במנהיגים, אבל המטרה העיקרית של הכוחות בשטח היא להרוג את האויב. יותר חשובה מהאיכות, אחת השגיאות שצה"ל עושה, שהוא דן כל פעם לגופו של עניין, האם ההוא זכאי למות או לא זכאי למות. אגב, רוב החבר'ה האלה כשהם נולדו, הם נועדו למות. צריך לעזור להם.
גדול, ולתת להם מכות, לא רק מכות כל כך מכירות, שהמחיר יהיה כבד מנשוא. כרגע המחיר לא כבד מנשוא. זו התקפה רבת היקף על הרשות הפלסטינית. זה לפחד שהכל מתמוטט.
לא פוחדים, צוחקים להם, יראו לנו לתוך הישרת וצחוק ופשוט הם לא פוחדים.
זה מה שמביא אותם
ואז רגע, אבל אז השופע מהעולם יגיד מה, אתם כובשים? אתה לא מפחד מהעולם, ביבי.
במיוחד היום עם אמריקה, אני יודע מה זה אמריקה. אמריקה זה דבר שאפשר להזיז אותו בקלות, להזיז לכיוון הנכון. לא יפריעו לו.
אז שאני אומר, אנחנו עושים איזה משהו, אז הם...
יש שווה, אז נניח שהם אומרים משהו.
אני חושבת שמראש צריך לגרש. לא לגרש, להכיל מרצון בשוודיה ובהמבורג פלסטינים, אבל להשאיר 400 חבר'ה לעבודה.
400,000.
400.
400
חבר'ה, כי אתה צריך אנשים שיבנו בטקטוק את הריביירה.
לרדת ל-400 כמה זמן זה
מה
ייקח?
הבעיה, נשמה?
Stay in the Gaza Strip. Who will stay? Jews. Africa is big. Canada is big. The world will absorb the people of Gaza. How we do it? We encourage it.
If they don't want to go.
No, they won't.
If they don't.
The Arabs want to go.
If they don't want to go.
They want to go.
If they don't, what happens?
The normal people don't want to live in hell. Call it ethnic cleansing, you call it refugees, whatever you want. If you want to call it cleansing, if you want to call it apartheid, you choose your definition.
תושבי עזה, זאת פניית הזרה האחרונה. הסינואר הראשון הרס את עזה, והסינואר השני יחריב אותה לחלוטין. תקיפת חיל האוויר נגד מחבלי החמאס הייתה רק הצעד הראשון. ההמשך יהיה קשה בהרבה, ואתם תשלמו את מלוא המחיר. בקרוב יתחיל שוב פינוי האוכלוסייה מאזורי הקרבות. אם לא ישוחררו כל החטופים הישראלים, והחמאס לא יסולק מעזה, ישראל תפעל בעוצמות שעוד לא הכרתם. קבלו את עצת נשיא ארצות הברית, תחזירו את החטופים ותסלקו את החמאס, ויפתחו לכם אופציות אחרות, כולל יציאה למקומות אחרים בעולם למי שירצה. האלטרנטיבה היא הרס וחורבן מוחלט.
They will not stay in Gaza, by no means. Just as people from Afghanistan moved in the time of war, just as refugees from Syria moved in Ukraine, the same thing will be here. How do we intend to proceed with settling Gaza? We have political support, we have public support, and we have the experience that we have accumulated in 55 years of settling Judea, Samaria, the Golan Heights. We settled all these areas, more than 330 settlements. So we plan to take what we acquired in the years of settling Judea and Samaria and to do the same thing here in Gaza.
Outcome of war, this can happen, but it is not terrorism. Because what terrorists do is target the innocent deliberately. And therefore my definition of terrorism is the systematic and deliberate attack, the murder, maiming and menacing of innocents, of civilians, for political goals. I think that you can tell a lot about terrorists, but what happens when they come to power? Those who fight for freedom and come to power do not impose terrorism. Those who do, who fight in terroristic means, end up as being masters of terrorist states.
We have observed that the nature of the bombs dropped on us since the occupation ended, the ceasefire is entirely different from previous ones. Their size is massive, and the sound causes a powerful shock wave and tremors, resembling an earthquake. The blast radius creates an enormous horizontal crater, and the shrapnel travels incredible distance.
שלום לכם אנשי חנין, אוכלוסיית הדרום. זהו, זה נגמר. צה"ל הגיע. צה"ל הגיע. הביתה. אנחנו יצאנו למצרים, קצת בשלב, אתם עכשיו יוצאים למצרים. כל טוב. שלום ולא להתראות.
لا إله إلا الله.
قطعوا الأكسجين عنهم. في مرضى حاليا مهددين إنهم يموتوا في أي وقت. من فوق ونزل البنطلون بعديها عشان يفتشوا يعني. وبعدين مسكنا من راسنا زي هيك وشاف الهوية وطلعونا، قعدونا مجموعات وطلعونا. عبال ما خلصنا كلنا، خلص تفتيش الكل تقريبا كنا 60 أو 70.
Jewish, and I've been to Gaza as part of the humanitarian medical delegation. That was about 5 years ago. And I will say that at that time, Israel was doing the same thing it's doing now, but it was a slow genocide. Now it's full out, the gloves are off and the mask is off. Israel's targeting of the healthcare system. So it's guilty of genocide. The International Court of Justice has deemed it so and has called on it to stop all actions that are consistent with genocide. Israel has destroyed every hospital in Gaza, has specifically kidnapped doctors for torture a well-known orthopedic surgeon, was taken to their torture prison and was raped to death. Raped to death.
كانت محاصرتنا بكل مكان، تم استهداف عدد كبير من الأطفال والشباب، دماؤهم على الأرض لحتى الآن ولم يتم إسعاف أي أحد منهم.
The biggest concern is the way that it is being used indiscriminately, but at the same time discriminately. It is like deliberately targeting the entire population of Gaza at first sight, but at the same time indiscriminately. It's a matter of life.
There's armed drones that are carrying bombs, and then on the back of those drones we see quadcopters that descend down and appear to shoot bullets for anybody that remains moving.
Day after day after day, operating on children. He would say, I was lying on the ground after a bomb had dropped, and this quadcopter came down and hovered over me and shot me. And that's clearly a deliberate act, and it was a persistent act, persistent targeting of civilians day after day.
عيدك يا حبيبي، قلت لي عيدك اليوم جيت عيدتك يا روح. الله يرحمك ويتقبلك يا روح. ايش ذنبك انت؟ ايش ذنب الطفل؟ سما لعلك زراعي يا حرب والله زراعي. حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل. والله وحيد يا عاد. كيف استشهد؟ ضرب جارنا كان قاعد بيلعب بالاولاد من بين الاولاد ضربنا اختار.
How many civilians have been killed in Gaza, from what you know?
Who gives a shit?
Okay, but don't you feel like, for example, children?
Children grow up to be Arabs.
את יודעת כמה חפים מפשע נהרגו בעזה?
לא, זה גם לא מעניין אותי.
לא? למה?
לא מעניין אותי, אני...
Stay in the Gaza Strip. Who will stay? Jews.
تعال بسم الله ما شاء الله. شو اسمك؟ خذ نمي. يلا امسك على السوا، امسك على السوا حمودي. امالك امالك، مد ايدك مد ايدك مد ايدك. ايوه بطل.
Because what terrorists do is target the innocent deliberately. And therefore my definition of terrorism is the systematic and deliberate attack, the murder, maiming and menacing of innocents, of civilians.
الذين صبروا على ربهم يتوكلون الذين صبروا على ربهم يتوكلون.
الآن عشرات الإصابات تخرج من بين هذه المنازل المستهدفة.
الذين يقولون ربنا إننا آمنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وقنا عذاب النار. الصابرين والصادقين والقانتين والمنفقين والمستغفرين.
The Israeli army called an evacuation order. You have to leave fast, or it can be deadly.
כולל יציאה למקומות אחרים בעולם למי שירצה. האלטרנטיבה היא הרס וחורבן מוחלט.
Because what terrorists do is target the innocent.
The video is deeply disturbing, harrowing. I'll remember it for the rest of my life. The footage shows that in total contradiction of Israel's claims, the ambulances had their lights on and were clearly marked, and they were ambushed by the Israeli army. The terrified and obviously unarmed paramedics are then subjected to a barrage of bullets. You hear one paramedic, Refat Radwan, reciting the Shahada, the Muslim declaration of faith, because he knows he's going to die. His last words were, "Forgive me, mother. Forgive me. I chose this path to help people. Forgive me, mother." He was begging for forgiveness from his mother because he had chosen to be a paramedic as if this is a career which should be treated as having a possible death sentence. His body was then found in the mass grave with a bullet to his head.
Now to the growing outrage overseas as newly released video appears to contradict the official account from Israeli leaders about a deadly attack in Gaza. The verified video appears to show a convoy with headlights and emergency signals on. Israeli forces had previously said the convoy was moving in the dark. The video was recovered from the cell phone of a Palestinian paramedic, one of 15 killed in March. And we want to warn you, the video is disturbing. Here's ABC's Inez de la Catera.
Tonight, newly released video verified by ABC News appearing to show the moment a convoy of first responders and aid workers in Gaza came under fire, seeming to contradict the IDF's initial claims about a deadly strike on March 23rd that left 15 dead. The IDF saying shortly after the incident that when troops opened fire, the vehicles were advancing suspiciously toward IDF troops without headlights or emergency signals. But this video, recovered from the cell phone of Rifat Radwan, a Palestinian paramedic killed in the attack, shows the vehicles moving with their headlights on, lights flashing, some people even wearing reflective gear before coming under fire. Tonight, the IDF saying in a new statement to ABC News the incident is under thorough examination. Under the Geneva Convention, it is a war crime to knowingly fire at a medic wearing clear insignia.
This is absolutely insane. Trump just did a press conference with Benjamin Netanyahu, and he said that we will take over Gaza, America will, and that we will clean it out for Israel, and that we will clear out all the unexploded bombs. So we paid for bombs that killed innocent Palestinians, and now we have to go and clean them out with our soldiers, U.S. citizens, so that the precious, precious, precious Israelis don't die for their own war. Americans die for their war. And then he says we're going to move all of the Palestinians out of Gaza. That's 2.2 million people. First of all, that is literally the definition of ethnic cleansing. Second of all, how are we going to move them out? And you think they're just going to go along with it? Or do you think maybe they might resist that? And if they do, what are we in? We're in the middle of a giant war when he was the anti-war candidate. So the disaster of Donald Trump serving Israel has begun.
This past week, there was an incident in which a small number of soldiers vandalized property belonging to civilians in Judea and Samaria. As a result, the Chief of the General Staff, LTG Eyal Zamir, arrived to the point in which the incident occurred and emphasized that he expects all of our soldiers in all arenas to operate while upholding the IDF's core values. Additionally, the relevant commanders in the IDF thoroughly investigated the incident and took proper disciplinary measures with the soldiers that were involved. The IDF operates based on specific values called the spirit of the IDF. The situation that happened illustrates how important these values are while defending our civilians in this area. When you read about our operational activities in the media, remember our core values and discipline that stand behind them.
سرقوا كل الدار وخلوا لنا هدول حتى هي سارقين جواتها كان في كمبيوتر هون
بعد الخير نصلح الجامع بعد الصلاة الكبار كان توقع الباب قلت لطف عليه ولا ارجع 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 افطارها معها مش عارفين ياكلوا من الطبخ كابش يا عم كابش يا حبيبي لا اله الا الله محمد رسول الله كابش يا حبيبي كابش يا عم
indeed arrested because he's being accused of being against me, against Jewish people. That is not true. That is patently not true. He is pleading for the children that are lying on the streets of Gaza. He is pleading for God's creations. That's not anti-Semitism. My grandparents were killed in Auschwitz. My father escaped with the Nazis, came to Hungary. My father-in-law, all of blessed memory, walked on the death march from Auschwitz. And a bunch of people came along in the time before Hitler. They came along in Europe. People who lost God and didn't have God's morals, and they decided to make a nationalist movement, and for convenience they decided to make this in Palestine. And in order to stifle any dissent, they said, we are telling you we are Jews, and the ones who are opposing us is because they're anti-Semites. That is despicable. That is false. And I will not, and we will not relinquish our Jewish name and not the word anti-Semitism. We are pleading with you, President Trump. We are pleading with you, Congress. We are pleading with you, world leaders. We suffered enough. We suffered enough. Don't take that little identity of us and use it to perpetrate a murder against innocent people. It's unacceptable.
Let me be clear. God is eternal. His word is eternal, and so are the Jewish people. Judaism forbids Zionism. The Jewish people never ever sought to gain sovereignty of the Holy Land till the Zionist godless founders hijacked our name. But it was never us. Our grandparents lived in the Holy Land in peace with their Arabic neighbors. They were friends and colleagues. Zionists wanted to create a Jewish nationality and destroyed it all to achieve it. Netanyahu, you do not represent us.
Thanks for the message.
Zionists are standing behind it because they want that in order to justify the conquest of Palestine, the genocide, the ethnic cleansing, the destruction of the Palestinian culture and religion, you have to come with a reason why you do it. Why you do such a genocide? Why are you doing such a Holocaust? So if you come in and you demonize the Muslims as a radical murderers, so everyone understands that with murders you have to deal with a murder like as a murder. But so that's why they're trying to bury the shared history, the rich history that the Muslim brought to the world, and the way how to behave to Jews. That has to be buried under the carpet. It's unbelievable that 2.3 million people have been slaughtered, starved to death, without food, without water, without any medicines. There's more people dying now in sickness in Gaza, and relatively even more than the bombs, because there's no medicines. 17 hospitals were completely destroyed out of service. It reminds me what the Germans used to bomb Jewish hospitals in Warsaw and Poland. They used to go with the Stuka dive bombing and to blow up a whole hospital. 80 Jewish children and women and babies were killed. But what about the Palestinians? They're not babies. They not deserve to live.
Palestine! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free!
As a Jewish person, I think it's important to stand in solidarity with Palestine every day and show the world that Judaism and Zionism are not the same thing, and that Palestinian existence doesn't pose a threat to Jewish safety. We've been sold a false narrative, and I think it's really important for Jews everywhere to stand up and say, I'm not okay with this, and this is not being done for me.
As a Jewish person, I'm here to object to the indiscriminate killing of men, women, and children in Gaza, the disproportionate response of Israel to October 7th and the events there, and also to show solidarity with the people of Gaza and also the Jewish people here. Jewish people are not a monolith, they all think the same. London is not a no-go zone for Jewish people, and to kind of counter some of the ridiculous propaganda that you hear.
We come from a people who have been targeted and persecuted and genocided in the past, and it's quite painful, I think, to feel like this is being undertaken in my name, and it certainly does not reflect my Jewish values, which are life for all people.
As a Jewish person, I'm here, proud to be here to say, not in my name. The world needs to wake up.
As a queer person, as a Jewish person, and as an American, I am horrified by the Israeli government's massacre of well over 65,000 Palestinians in Gaza. I am ashamed and infuriated that this mass murder is funded by our American tax dollars. It should not be controversial to say that we should all be against murdering civilians.
How to be a Jew after the ethnic cleansing of Palestine. I'm a Jew born in America in 1948. I go to Palestine and I find out that we have driven out an entire population and we're engaged in a process of ethnically cleansing an indigenous population, a beautiful, wonderful culture to make room for our so-called redemption. The Jewish story of today is not the story of our suffering in the past, which gives us total innocence and the right to do whatever we want. Our story of today is the story of what we are doing to another people. Our story is the Nakba, what the Palestinians call the catastrophe, their Holocaust. If we do not understand that this is our story, we are done for. And I tell you, Rabbi, that the day will come when we will be on our knees in contrition and beating our breasts in shame for what we have done. And may that day come speedily and in our times, as the Jewish prayer goes.
Condemn them for what? For living in a concentration camp for almost 8 decades? You know, the Gaza concentration camp was established in the 50s as a concentration camp. It's not like before October 7th or before a certain year, you know, it was just everybody was free. It's been a concentration camp since the early 1950s. In World War II, the Red Army and the Allies went in to liberate the concentration camps. Why are we not talking about liberating the Gaza concentration camp? It's a concentration camp. Millions of people living in a concentration camp, minutes away from Israeli settlements that people live like this. There's always electricity, there's always water, there's plenty of food, there's medicine. That a child would die from an infection? That somebody would die from dehydration? That there's no access to antibiotics? Or anesthesia? Or the best care in the world? It's right there, minutes away, minutes away. So condemn them for what?
Let me ask you a simple question, okay? If you're at war with Gaza, why are you shooting children in the skull and in the chest? The New York Times published an article on that, came under a lot of flack because they published that article. They said we can't refute the evidence. We have the x-rays in front of us. They're shooting children in the head, in the skull, and in the chest. If you're engaged in the war in Gaza, why are you killing journalists? Why are you killing medics? Why are you killing UN workers? If you're engaged in the war with Hamas, why is it that Human Rights Watch just this past week put out a report? They tell people where to flee. They say go to the safe zones. Human Rights Watch says when the people are directed, they're being shot at the road.
But are you seriously saying no? But hang on.
When they get to the safe areas,
I understand. I've already made that point.
Israel drops 2,000-pound bombs.
I've made that very point.
Does that sound like a war?
No, I've made it.
Or does that sound like a genocide?
Well,
does it sound like? It's absolutely mind-numbing. One genocidal statement after another genocidal statement after another genocidal statement after another. So here's the thing. Israel, if you look at what they write in their newspapers, what they post on Facebook, what they tweet, what they say on public affairs, radio, and TV programs. They aren't in the least hiding the fact that they're committing genocide.
During your speech, you made a lot of references to Jewish people as well as certain people in your audience to Nazis. Now, that is extremely offensive to people who've actually suffered under Nazi rule.
I don't respect that anymore. I don't like and I don't respect the crocodile tears. The crocodile tears. My late father was in Auschwitz. My late mother was in Majdanek concentration camp. Every single member of my family was exterminated because of the lessons my parents taught me that I will not be silent when Israel commits its crimes against the Palestinians. And I consider nothing more despicable than to use their suffering to try to justify the brutalization that Israel daily commits against the Palestinians.
Why did you sacrifice the rules-based order on the mantle of your commitment to Zionism? Why did you allow my friends to be massacred? Why did you allow my friends' homes in Gaza to be destroyed when we had a deal in May? You helped destroy our religion, Judaism, by associating it with fascism. You waved the white flag before Netanyahu. You waved the white flag before Israeli fascism. Your father-in-law was an Israel lobbyist. Your grandfather was an Israel lobbyist. Are you compromised by Israel? Why did you allow the Holocaust of our time to happen? How does it feel to have your legacy be genocide? How does it feel to have your legacy be genocide?
Now, look, I used to be a Zionist. As you mentioned, I'm a Holocaust survivor. Zionism was very important for me as a salvation of the Jewish people, until I found out that the state was founded based on the extirpation, the exploitation, and multiple massacres of the local population. And that's not historically controversial. So I'm taking a longer view of this, and I'm saying that the present situation cannot be understood without looking at the historical context, and nor can we move forward if the present occupation and the suppression of the Palestinians continue.
A minute of silence for each of the Bibas children would be appropriate, as would a minute of silence for each of the more than 18,000 Palestinian children murdered in Israel's devastation of Gaza. That silence would extend to over 300 hours. Our task is to prevent that conflict and that human suffering. And it results from political conflict, preventable tragedies, and the many more tragedies that await if steps are not taken. The absence of accountability, absolute impunity, is a guarantor of perpetual conflict.
The single greatest threat to freedom of speech in the United States at this point in time is Israel and its supporters here in the United States. It's truly amazing the extent to which Israel's supporters are going to enormous lengths to shut down free speech, not only on university campuses, but all across the country.
Alluding to Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, I don't like any of these anti-Semites, and I'm not shy about it.
Why do you support Israel against, for example? Why do you support America giving them billions of dollars?
Well, I don't. I don't want the United States involved in anything that's morally indefensible or counter to its own interests.
We're not going to win their hearts and minds because they don't have hearts and they don't have minds.
What has happened to the children and the women of Palestine is a perfect act of evil, and I will not support it. I will not support it because I am a Christian.
In the specific case of Israel, I hate the fact that civilians are killed with American weapons. I hate it. I hate it in Gaza.
There's no reason to think we're ever going to convince them, but we can put them in jail, we can make their lives miserable, we can cut off their funding.
This is my country, my birthright is free speech, and if you're telling me what I'm allowed to say in my country, you're my enemy.
I'm not gonna bend the knee to Israel. I will never bend the knee to evil. Like, it feels like Netanyahu is running the White House and Trump's just signing and doing whatever they say, right? It feels like Netanyahu should be sitting in the Oval Office as they demand hate speech laws and they get what they want. Every day they're announcing something that they're going to do to further support Israel. And that something is now looking to me like a detriment to American freedom. And if you can't see that, okay, it is time for you to take off the rose-colored glasses. I think that I don't have enough courage to stand up to ethnic supremacy as it is now again coming into the country under the guise of hatred for Jews, when in fact it's hatred for Bibi Netanyahu routinely blowing up children and us being told that we're not allowed to speak about it.
Doctors Against Genocide, but the police have warned us to...
Wake up, I'm going to start making arrests. Spread out to the building if you're going to go to your appointments.
We were just trying to take a group photo.
Can we take a group photo?
Nope.
Okay, no group photos.
I'm going to start arresting people.
Just here to spread awareness. I don't understand what happened to our freedom of speech. Is it not freedom of speech when we talk about Palestine, when we talk about the genocide? That's not the freedom of speech. Came here to spread awareness. That's all.
If you have signs designed, I don't have no sign. Okay. Your group is up here. I'm not. No. I can't hold them. You're not. You're not listening. No, I'm not. I'm done. You in charge, sir? If you have any questions, feel free to contact our PIO's office.
This
is what happens when you serve your country. Okay. Have a good day. So I will tell every young man not to serve our country again. This is what happened. I just asked you a question. You got to act negative like that? None of y'all ever tell me or any other service member, thank you for your service.
Let's talk a little bit about Israel.
There's nobody on this stage that's more pro-Israel than I am.
I am a Zionist. You don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist. The two most important committees for Israel are Foreign Affairs and Appropriations. And you couldn't have two stronger supporters of Israel, both New Yorkers, than Nita Lowey and Elliot Engel.
Elliot Engel is the chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee. Nita Lowey is the chair of the Appropriations Committee, a big supporter of Israel, as you know. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who was here, she has a very important position on appropriations, which is where this bill of funding for Israel takes place. The list goes on. Ted Deutsch is the chair of the Middle East Subcommittee. Lois Frankel is on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Alcee Hastings on rules, and that's important in terms of anti-Semitism as well as pro-Israel initiatives. So we have people very well placed. Adam Schiff is the chair of the Intelligence Committee.
And I've been on both the Foreign Relations Committee for 10 years, and I'm the number 2 person on the Intelligence Committee and been there for 10 years.
The foundation of our relationship must remain bipartisan as it has been for decades.
It's important that Israel always maintains bipartisan support, especially in the Congress.
Whether we be Democrats or Republicans, and we are a bipartisan delegation, we come together in support with our friends, our only true friend in the Middle East, and that's Israel.
I believe Israel should never be a partisan issue. I will do everything in my power to ensure broad and bipartisan support.
No matter on which side of the aisle you sit, you stand with Israel.
If this capital crumbled to the ground, the one thing that would remain is our commitment to Israel.
Every candidate for Congress at that time had a pledge. They were given a pledge to sign. So the pledge had Jerusalem as the capital city, the military superiority of Israel.
American Congress people have to sign this pledge.
Yes.
Let me ask you what it is you're lobbying for. Since you got everything you want, you got $20 billion of our money. You get Israel supported through its genocide. What else are you lobbying for now? We're here in Congress, and it's just swarming with people who are part of AIPAC and other groups that are advocating for Israel. I'm actually anxious to find out what it is they want, because they've gotten everything. We've asked them many times and they're afraid to talk to us because they feel very uncomfortable in their righteousness for supporting a genocide. You know, the whole world has watched the last year and a half and are so disgusted. And as a Jewish person, I say how ashamed I am. And those of you who are here advocating on behalf of Israel, it is a genocide. You are supporters of genocide.
Israel kills Palestinian men, women and children, and then they look around the world and they don't receive a single sanction to stop. They are emboldened and they keep acting. I mean, this motion is a joke. It is a joke as part of a peace process. What peace process? Israel is carrying out a genocide. Israel is carrying out a genocide in Gaza. It's not a peace process.
Epic night on Tuesday. I got home at 2 a.m. Unable to sleep, I jumped online onto Instagram to be confronted with the images of dead and dying children. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I know this is unprofessional. I am just a normal person, not a career politician. From the latest indiscriminate Israeli bombing of civilians in Gaza. It was such a wrenching feeling to have been so swallowed up in an incredibly intense night here with all the pettiness and hostility and outright lies that happen in this chamber, which can feel like the whole world, for that to then be shattered by being instantly transported into the refugee tents of families in Gaza. And as I lay in bed, my 15-month-old baby lay sleeping peacefully next to me. I saw images of little Palestinian babies, mutilated, their feet poking out of the rubble. On Tuesday night, this week, Israel broke the ceasefire and spent the night bombing refugee tent encampments in civilian areas. The body of the first dead baby had a little pink jumpsuit on with flowers. Sorry. It's important that I say this. I imagined the mother picking that outfit out for her baby when she was pregnant, full of hope for her child's future. I saw men weeping over the wrapped up bodies of children. It is something that the brain cannot understand when you first see it. The small cloth wrapped bundles that are children's bodies. I saw a video of a little boy about 6 years old, so traumatized by witnessing the death of his entire family.
Debates. Today I want to compare what Israel says with what Israel does, seeing as the Commission is unable to make that distinction. Israel claims it facilitates humanitarian aid entering Gaza, yet all entry points into Gaza are closed for cargo since early March. At the border, food is rotting, medicine is expiring, and vital medical equipment is trapped. Israel originally denied bombing the Al-Ali Arab Hospital. It has now attacked all hospitals in Gaza. Israel denies targeting journalists, yet they've killed over 200 journalists in Gaza. Israel denies killing humanitarian workers, yet they murdered 15 paramedics and aid workers one by one and buried them in a shallow grave, some of them with their hands bound. Under the EU's watch, Israel has normalised genocide and contempt for international law. When will the EU find its humanity and stand up to this rogue state? Sanction Israel, free Palestine.
Israel continues to commit the greatest evil the world has witnessed in recent memory. 2 weeks ago, we debated its use of starvation as a weapon of war. This week, we witnessed the targeting of healthcare workers and rescuers in Gaza. A mass grave discovered containing 15 humanitarian workers, executed one by one, buried in by an Israeli bulldozer. Their crime, wearing the Red Crescent. And as Israel bombards Palestinians with relentless airstrikes, enforces mass evacuation orders in southern Gaza and erects new checkpoints to strangle movement in the West Bank, it blocks the very people and medical equipment who could save innocent lives. Meanwhile, some members of this Parliament dare to call for the defunding of the only agency that can still help, UNRWA.
That most of us have in this House. We've witnessed over the Christmas period, when we're celebrating with our families, the scenes of children starving and freezing to death as a result of Israeli actions. Up until now, the actions that have been taken clearly haven't had the effect we wanted. The only solution that we've had in the past is a total isolation of a country, economically and militarily, to prevent them performing war crimes in the way that Israel has.
Have you ever seen anything like you saw in Gaza?
No.
And you try to prepare yourself for a visit like that. You talk to people who've been, but nothing can prepare you for that. I feared the worst, and it was much worse than I'd anticipated. You know, I'd been in southern Israel, I'd been to Nir Oz, one of the kibbutz that was attacked on October the 7th. A quarter of people there were taken hostage or killed. And then I drove across the border from southern Israel into northern Gaza through the Eretz checkpoint. And it's just wasteland for miles and miles and miles. You know, people are talking about a resumption of the conflict. There's nothing left to bomb there. My staff, who stayed all the way through this conflict, had to use GPS to find where their homes were because there were no landmarks to navigate by. You see people pulling bodies from the rubble. You see animals going through the rubble looking for corpses. It's a horror show. It's a complete horror show.
Neil Duncan-Jordan.
Madam Deputy Speaker, as has already been mentioned in the Chamber this morning, a year ago today, my constituent John Chapman was murdered by the Israeli Defence Force while working for World Central Kitchen, delivering humanitarian aid in Gaza. His family now want to know when the Israeli government is going to bring criminal charges against the perpetrators, when they will be awarded compensation for their tragic loss, and what our government is doing to ensure justice prevails.
Monsieur le Premier ministre, Gaza était jusqu'à présent un ghetto où les Palestiniens sont assassinés par les armes, la faim et l'absence de soins. Gaza est en train de devenir un camp de concentration où le niveau de barbarie déployé par l'armée israélienne est tel qu'on doit énoncer des à peu près pour décrire le bilan du génocide en cours. À peu près 80 000 morts, mais sans doute beaucoup plus. À peu près 20 000 enfants tués. 20 000 enfants. Jamais dans l'histoire récente, des enfants n'ont été massacrés en si grand nombre avec un tel sadisme. Tous les jours, des enfants palestiniens sont brûlés, écrasés, démembrés, décapités, abattus d'une balle dans la tête, amputés sans anesthésie, emprisonnés. Et dans cet hémicycle, les complices sont nombreux. Les complices sont ceux qui se rendent en Israël pour soutenir le gouvernement fasciste de Netanyahou et encourager son armée. Les complices sont ceux qui répandent la propagande du groupe de lobbying de l'extrême droite israélienne Elnet. Les complices sont ceux qui mènent des campagnes de diffamation contre la rapporteure spéciale de l'ONU pour les territoires palestiniens. Les complices sont ceux qui reçoivent à Paris des ministres d'un État désormais voyou, mais qui sont incapables de la moindre sanction, de la moindre réprimande. Et s'il y a tant de complices ici, c'est parce que la vie des enfants palestiniens a moins de valeur pour vous que la vie des autres enfants dans le monde. Pour vous, ce ne sont que des à peu près. Mais pour nous, ce sont nos enfants. Et comme nos enfants, ils ont un nom, ils ont un visage, ils ont une vie à vivre. Comme Bissan al-Hindi, qui a été tué dans son sommeil par un bombardement sur sa tente à Khan Younes dans la nuit du 17 au 18 mars dernier.
Monsieur le député,
regardez ce visage.
C'est interdit de brandir des affiches.
Regardez tous les visages autour de moi. Ce sont les visages de notre mauvaise conscience.
Vous n'avez plus la parole. Je ne sais pas à qui ça...
The legacy of the Biden administration will always include its illegal support for the genocide in Gaza.
That support has not only violated international humanitarian law, it violated the U.S. government's own laws.
We are among more than a dozen U.S. officials who publicly resigned our posts in protest, along with many others who left quietly.
We took an oath to defend and uphold the Constitution, but we were asked to violate that oath, and we're here to demand accountability.
I'm Manal Sheline, a former official in the U.S. State Department.
Alexander Smith, USAID.
Miriam Hassanin, Department of the Interior.
Riley Livermore, U.S. Air Force.
Our government's complicity in the destruction of Gaza has tarnished our reputation around the world.
As public servants, many of us tried to speak out internally. We then watched as our leaders gave political cover and massive funding to Israel, all while refusing to enforce U.S. laws.
One of these, the Leahy Law, prohibits the United States from providing funding to units of a foreign military or police force if there is credible information that the unit has committed a gross violation of human rights.
Investigations by journalists, lawyers, and human rights groups have revealed numerous allegations of Israeli forces using torture, forced disappearances, field executions, and rape against Palestinians since October of 2023.
Sanders has a bill that he wants to bring up to Congress
to put an arms embargo on Israel, who just 3 days ago killed 178 children in one night while they were sleeping in their tents. The U.S. has been complicit in sending money. Congress has voted to send weapons in, I think, violation of Leahy laws and international laws to an apartheid state that is plausibly carrying out a genocide. When are we going to stop supporting this? When are we going to say, no, we're not going to continue killing children and innocent people? They're talking 60,000 to 200,000 people dead from U.S. weapons. And this is something you and Hickenlooper have both supported for 16 months.
I do think that the Gaza situation is a tragic situation, and it is my hope that we will someday be in a place where we are able to get a two-state solution there that can put this period
Flow of weapons, and they could stop killing people. And you're in a place where you could do that.
Yeah, and we obviously have a different point of view about that, and
that they're getting bombs dropped on their tents. That's not a different point of view. That's fact.
Yeah.
That's happening, and it's from weapons that are paid for with our tax dollars.
The next question.
Does America have a moral conscience anymore?
I think
How do you go to work when there are hundreds of thousands of Palestinians dying over and over again? How do you morally support that kind of outrage?
Thank you.
That's what I want.
Thank you.
We are haunted by images of mutilated and burning bodies.
We are not meant to see babies buried under rubble.
Our capacity to facilitate healing from this sickness for ourselves and our patients is limited when the root cause of the suffering, genocide, continues unabated.
We humans are not designed to see each other being obliterated this way, and our neurobiology just cannot take it anymore. We are sick from genocide, and we felt that we need to take an action.
I remember 6-year-old Siwar, who was intubated in the ICU with severe traumatic brain injury. Her little brother still missing. I recall her mother sitting next to her, tears streaming down her face, asking what was her crime. I remember the silence of the woman brought into the hospital injured, staring blankly and unable to speak. She had given birth 1 week earlier. She couldn't find her 7-day-old baby. Both her baby and her toddler were trapped under the rubble. There are no words that can adequately convey the pain and depravity of this aggression. There are no words. I want the whole world to know that I'm a human being. At the end, I am not pen on paper. I'm not anonymous. I'm a human being created by God. Palestinian colleagues are not here today because the systems we currently exist in don't recognize the value of Palestinian life. Every single healthcare worker I met in Gaza has lost family, has lost friends, has lost colleagues.
You can't be a warmonger and a diplomat. Little Marco he's taken over $1 million from the Israel lobby. He is paying them back with the blood of Gaza. This is unbelievable. This man is a warmonger. He wants the U.S. fighting in China, in Iran, in Russia. He wants them fighting in Gaza. He's going to cost the lives of millions of people around the world, not to mention young men and women, service members. These people are completely divorced. The U.S. people do not want another forever war. It's absolutely against the interests of everyone. They're getting well paid for keeping us at war.
What are we doing? Shame on all of you! Well, don't speak up against the genocide! Senators, when are you going to stop bombing babies in Gaza? Veterans are committing suicide and are homeless. My father, a veteran, committing suicide.
Palestinians will win because this war has another front. It's not simply in Gaza. It's in New York City. It's in London. It's in Paris. It's in all the cities of the people around the world. There are 8 billion people in the world. Most of them stand with Gaza and say no to Israel.
He's supporting Palestine today.
I'm supporting human rights. If it was anybody's children, anyone's families, anyone's homes, my basic position, and I think of most of the people here, is no matter how traumatic a history of a people, no people has the right to exercise collective punishment, ethnic cleansing, or genocide on a population for any reason ever. So whoever's children this was, whatever country this was, whoever was victim to this abuse of power, every serious organization on earth, from the ICC, the United Nations, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, we know what this is. It's a genocide. And when my little girl asks me in 10, 15, 20 years, what did you do? What can I say? I bore witness. I wasn't silent. I didn't sit at home. I didn't buy stuff on Amazon. Maybe I can't change anything, but what I can do with hundreds of thousands of other people is say, this isn't right. We bear witness. We won't forget. And in time, if there is ever justice, we will be here to bear witness to that as well. That's it.
War with Iran will be World War III. Iran is not alone, and it will not remain alone. With Russia, we are at possibility of peace, but we're also at a possibility of nuclear war. They're both very close. And if we go to war with Iran, we make nuclear war all the more likely.
Do you think that the people pushing us toward war with Iran understand that?
No, I think that they're following a plan, clean break, 1996, and a plan, 1991, 7 wars in 5 years, that has been deep set, and that has been Netanyahu's baby all the time. Netanyahu, I regard as one of the most delusional and dangerous people on the planet. He has engaged the United States so far in 6 disastrous wars, and he's aiming to engage us in yet one more. We're not standing up for Israel. We are engaging in war on Israel's behalf all over the Middle East. That's a completely different thing. Nothing that has happened in the Middle East has been for American national security. None of it. Not one of these wars. These have been Netanyahu's wars.
Let me say a few words about an issue that I know millions of Americans are deeply concerned about, and that is the horrible situation in Gaza today. As many of you know, the Netanyahu government of Israel has killed more than 50,000 people in Gaza in the last year and a half since the war began, and wounded over 112,000. 2 weeks ago, as you may know, the Netanyahu government broke the ceasefire, endangering the lives of the remaining hostages. And in those 2 weeks, just the last 2 weeks, they have killed 320 children and wounded more than 600 other kids. Our healthcare system has been virtually annihilated. Water systems and wastewater plants have been destroyed. So let us be clear. The United States must end our complicity in these atrocities. We cannot be part of this any longer.
شعب مسالم بدنا نعيش أقل مطالب الحياة بدنا نعيش وصلوها لجميع الأمة لجميع القيادة لجميع الأمة بدنا نعيش.
I say this as a Holocaust survivor, that the genocide in Gaza is not happening in my name and in our name. The way that the Israeli government is using the memory of the Holocaust in order to justify what they are doing to the Gazans is a complete insult to the memory of the Holocaust. It's an outrage. When I saw the Israeli ambassador to the United Nations putting on a yellow star, or stomach turning, somebody who had to wear a yellow star like myself and my entire family, I'm insulted by that. What distinguishes the Jewish Holocaust is its industrial scale and industrial methods being applied. And what has been happening to Gaza is similar in that the scale of the bombing and the indiscriminate nature of the bombing, the complete lack of care about children and women being the majority of the victims, amounts to industrial scale of genocide.
I hope that Benjamin Netanyahu burns in hell the same way them children and their families burned. I hope him and his generals and the far-right government in Israel, that when their God finally brings him to the resting place, that he deserves to burn in hell. Because what is happening now, not alone is it apartheid, not alone is it atrocity and a war crime, it's just horrific. It's just horrific what they're doing. Where is their soul? Where is the soul of the Israeli people that allows their government to do this to children? Where is their humanity? The Israeli people, the Jewish people, after everything the Jewish people have suffered down over the decades, that they would allow their government to do this to other human beings. Human beings.
Well, thank you for watching that. If you've sat all the way through it, it's a very, very hard watch, and you know, God must be looking down with an absolute broken heart at all of this. Do we confront hate with hate? No, that's not the answer. But what we must do is confront hate and this genocide with truth and with love, and together as part of one human family, that we confront the truth of this genocidal ethnic cleansing operation that's been waged against mostly a civilian and innocent population. The problems in Israel and Palestine, they have been going now for almost 80 years. And what you have really is a people at war with itself. Some of these people that are in Israel that are Jewish, they're Arab Semitic as well. And I know that those people are suffering seeing their own people just over the fence getting bombed and hurt and harmed and destroyed and killed in this manner. Yes, what happened on October the 7th, 2023 was despicable, it was evil, and for me as a former military man, I condemn that, because soldiers, we don't target civilians, we don't execute civilians. But what we've seen since then, and by my estimation, is a government that has seized an opportunity of this great tragedy that happened on October the 7th. They've grabbed it and they've turned it into an opportunity to do something that they've always wanted to do, and that is to wage a brutal, relentless ethnic cleansing operation in Gaza. There is nothing in the Bible that you can find from Genesis to Revelation that justifies this. There's nothing in there. And one of the most troubling things I've seen as a Christian is Christians that are supporting this military operation against civilians, against Gazans, against Palestinians, that are supporting it and celebrating it. When Jesus said, if you live by the sword, you die by the sword, he meant it.
Indeed, live by the sword, die by the sword. So what are we doing about it? Most of us just sit on the couch. It's horrible what's happening over there. Really horrible. Whatever, just go to work, do our day's work and come home, have a few beers. Oh, it's horrible what's happening over there. Seriously horrible. Yeah, look, OBS playing games again. Well, this show wasn't real successful anyway. I only went to Twitch and Kick, D-Live and YouTube. Didn't want to play. I guess. Anyway, mate, that's it for tonight. Today is the 22nd of the 6th, 2025. Just another day in infamy in a way. The shit that's happening. And don't worry, things are going to get worse. Hopefully not. Hopefully sun comes through and everything will be really peachy. All the bad guys will stop work and all the good guys will take over. Just how do you tell which one's which? Okay. Till I see you next time, folks. Be good to each other, because that's really important. Cheerio. And remember, I'm not the sharpest knife in the block. Bit like a bread knife. Cut through difficult subject matter. Always leave plenty of crumbs on the board.